Kunja Bihari Jaya Vara Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Ballabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Ballabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Vrtajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Vrtajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachami Yamuna Tira Vanachami Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
I was listening to the class yesterday. I think I texted you. It is better. It's very difficult to hear you if you get the lecture. The audible is not. So it's the fact that you should probably make sure that you speak directly into the mic. It's one of the ways that.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading today from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 8, Chapter 1, Text 15. Chapter is called The Manus, Administrators of the Universe. Ihate Bhagavan Isho Nahi Tatra Visajate Atma Labena Purnarto Nava Siddhanti Ye Nutam Ihate Bhagavan Isho nahi tatra visarjate, atma labena purnarto, navasidanti ye nutam, nihate bhagavan isho, nahi tatra visarjate, atma labena purnarto, navasidanti ye nutam, nihate bhagavan isho, nahi sarjate, atma labena purnarto, navasidanti ye nutam, nihate bhagavan isho, nahi tatra visarjate, atma labena purnarto, navasidanti ye nutam, nihate bhagavan isho, nahi tatra visarjate, atma labena purnarto, navasidanti ye chunam. Jiva, you want to try? Okay. Maybe tomorrow. Word for word synonyms. Ihate engages in activities of creation, maintenance, and annihilation. Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. Ishaha, the Supreme Controller. Na, not. He, indeed. Tatra, in such activities. Visarjate, he becomes entangled. Atma labena, because of his own gain. Purna arta, who is self-satisfied. Na, not. Avasidanti, are disheartened. Yea, persons who, anu, follow, tam, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is full in opulence by his own gain, yet he acts as the creator, maintainer, and annihilator of this material world. In spite of acting in that way, he is never entangled. Hence, devotees who follow in his footsteps are also never entangled. Repeat after me. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is full in opulence by his own gain. Yet he acts as the creator, maintainer, and annihilator of this material world. In spite of acting in that way, he is never entangled. Hence, devotees who follow in his footsteps are also never entangled. Purport of Srila Prabhupada. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, verse 9, Jagartat karmano nyatra lokoyan karma bandhanaha. Quote, work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work binds one to the material world. End quote. If we do not act in Krishna consciousness, we shall be entangled, like the silk worms in the cocoons. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna appears in order to teach us how to work so that we will not be entangled in this material world. The real problem is that we are entangled in materialistic activities because we are conditioned. Our struggle continues through punishment in material existence in one body after another, in different forms of life. As the Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, verse 7, Vangvangsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana manasastani indriyani prakriti-stani karshati. Quote, the living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they're struggling very hard with the six senses, which includes the mind. The living entity, end quote. The living entities are actually minute forms who are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is full in everything, and the little particles of the Lord are also originally qualified like Him. But because of their minute existence, they are infected by material attraction and thus entangled. We must therefore follow the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and then, like Krishna, who was never entangled by his material activities of creation, maintenance, and annihilation, we will have nothing for which to lament. Nava siddhanti ye nutam. Krishna personally gives instructions in Bhagavad Gita, and anyone who follows these instructions is liberated. Following Krishna's instructions is possible when one is a devotee, for Krishna instructs that one should become a devotee. Manmana bhavamad bhakto madhyaji mang namaskaru. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me. That's from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, verse 65. Also, always thinking of Krishna means chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. But unless one is an initiated devotee, he cannot do this. As soon as one becomes a devotee, he engages in deity worship, mad yaji. A devotee's business is to offer obeisances to the Lord and the spiritual master constantly. This principle is the recognized way to come to the platform of bhakti. As soon as one comes to this platform, he gradually understands the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and simply by understanding Krishna, one is liberated from material bondage. In the translation again, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is full in opulence by his own gain, yet he acts as the creator. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is full in opulence by his own gain, yet he acts as the creator, maintainer, and annihilator of this material world. In spite of acting in that way, he is never entangled. Hence, devotees who follow in his footsteps are also never entangled. Om Jnana Timiranda Shagina Jana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha. Okay, so Srila Prabhupada starts off the purport, Jagat Tat Karmano Nyatra Loko Yang Karma Bandhanaha. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed, otherwise work binds one to this material world. So, work done for Vishnu sacrifice done for Vishnu means, in the minimum, in the Varnashram system, you're following the Varnashram system. And of course, actually, those who were in the Varnashram system didn't necessarily get out of the material world immediately, but they were, at least by following it, they became gradually elevated. In modern times, the way people are living, so much sinful activities and so on, the destination is not good. Um, there's so much sinful activity, so much, intoxication, so much illicit activities, illicit sex and related activities, so much gambling. Gambling is legal. The lottery, even devotees sometimes go out and play these things, which should not be done because it's gambling, and of course there's reaction for that. Even if someone thinks, even if some devotee goes out and says, or anyone goes out, but even someone who's practicing Krishna consciousness thinks, oh, okay, well, if I win, I'll get a lot of money. Then I can give all my time and energy to Krishna consciousness. Yeah, or you can become completely entangled because there are lots of stories of people who won the big lottery and have gone crazy and have even committed suicide because things got so out of hand they couldn't handle it. And actually, all that was a reaction for the sinful activities. So one must perform sacrifice for the Lord, avoid sinful activities, and if we can do that, then we do not entangle ourselves more and more in the material world. And that's the point of this verse here. Just as Lord Krishna, he is never entangled. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's creating everything. He's maintaining everything. He's annihilating everything. It's all done by him directly or through his energies. And even though he is creating, maintaining, and annihilating, he is never in any way affected by the material energy. He's not affected by anything because he's in control. So that we understand. But if we actually become fully surrendered to the Lord, if we follow His instructions, in our case, we chant our Hare Krishna mantra regularly. We avoid the sinful activities. We use our time as much as possible and engage in Krishna service. Then, in that way, we become free from we are protected from becoming entangled in the material existence. Sometimes it's said that a devotee should give grihasthas, someone who's earning some money, should give 50% of their income for spreading Krishna consciousness. But directly, you say, 50 for most, unless someone's really rich, giving 50% of your income for spreading Krishna consciousness outside, giving it to the temple is not practical. But the understanding is you give you're earning money, but you've got family. Your family are devotees, right? And you're using your money to primarily to maintain and take care of the family, to help that small number of devotees become Krishna conscious. And then, of course, donations like that can be given to temple or some other way too. But it's the idea is that whatever we have, we use it in Krishna service. So grihastha life, that means primarily maintaining a nice Krishna conscious household like that, and working together to practice Krishna consciousness. That's spiritual life. The husband and the wife, everyone tries to help each other to stay on on the Krishna conscious path and to move forward in practicing Krishna consciousness. Sometimes one is in a stronger position, sometimes another is a member of the family is in a stronger position, but it's a teamwork in a sense to make sure that everyone becomes Krishna conscious. So that's and that was certainly Srila Prabhupada's preaching to all of us. There was one devotee, Mataji. She was when I first came to the Miami temple back then. When I first came here, there was one Mataji. She was functioning sort of like the head pujari. She never took the title head pujari, but she was like trying to make sure the deity worship was going on. I was sent to Miami told to become a pujari to assist. So, but she was like that. So she had in her case, her husband was actually traveling with Srila Prabhupada, like a Sanskrit editor who was assisting in that way. And she was there, and they had a child about his age, right? And so, but because she was being pujari, being in charge of the deity worship, takes a lot of time and energy. So there was some arrangement that someone else in the temple was taking care of the child all day, and she would just see him at night. I didn't even know she had a child until after several weeks had passed. I was there, but anyway, it was like that. But then she didn't feel good about that. She didn't feel like I got my child and I've got to take care. I should be taking care of him. I don't see him until nighttime. So she wrote to Srila Prabhupada about that situation. She's being asked to do that service in the temple, but what about her child? Srila Prabhupada wrote back to her, and this letter is out there. I've seen it come up a number of times. It became like a famous letter. He said, for you, child worship is more important than deity worship. And remember, she was just taking care of the deities. So that was his conclusion, and he said some other things too, in terms of the importance of Krishna conscious children and taking care of them nicely. So he said like that. Anyway, that's all part of the living a Krishna conscious life, using our time and our energy and our abilities in Krishna service. And that if we do that, then we can remain unentangled. Just like I know I've mentioned before in previous classes, but it always sticks with me. We avoid entanglement. Say we might feel like we're getting entangled. There's too much to do, work and everything, but we avoid the actual real entanglement, the one part of the kind of entanglement that binds us and binds us to the material world. We avoid that basically by Krishna conscious activities and by not engaging in by following the four regulative principles. And the reason that works is that that Kali, personality of Kali, personified Kali Yuga, he is allowed to live anywhere where there's sinful activities. Only where there's sinful activities. Or, well, two things. Maharaj Pariksha gave him that when he was about ready to kill him because he was hurting a cow and hurting a bull. But that he was given be allowed to live any place where there were these animal slaughter, illicit sex, animal slaughter, prostitution. It says intoxication and gambling. Anywhere in the world where those things were going on, Kali was allowed to live. The Kali said, Maharaj Pariksha, it's not possible. In your kingdom, these places do not exist. You imagine a time when none of these eating meat, illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, they did not exist in the world at that point. So he was saying like that. So then Maharaj Pariksha gave the okay, one more place you can live. He said anywhere where there is greed, and he said as where there's a hoarding of gold. Of course, gold means wealth. So whether and hoarding means not just that you have it and you use what you need, but you're greedy. So he allowed Kali to live anywhere where these places were, and so how that is significant for us in our modern present time of practicing Krishna consciousness, Srila Prabhupada says, do not do those four things. And if we do not do those, by not doing those four things, eating meat, illicit sex, intoxication, and gambling, by not doing those four things, then Kali can't come in. He may try to edge in here and edge in there, but basically we're protected, and we don't become more entangled in the material world, which is the point of this verse here. We don't become more entangled in the material world. And it actually makes sense, because if we think this Krishna consciousness movement is supposed to go on, and Kali Yuga, of course, is going to keep getting worse. Materially, it will get worse and worse and worse as the age goes on. So we may think, well, how are we supposed to become Krishna conscious if we're in this world which is going to become more and more sinful? How are we not going to be affected? How we not be affected is that we chant Hare Krishna and we just avoid those sinful activities. In other words, we don't have to be we don't have to become more and more entangled with the rest of the material society. We don't have to. We'll gradually become more Krishna conscious. Even if the 99% of the world is taking a nosedive into the Kali Yuga, even if that's going on, we who are practicing Krishna consciousness don't have to be affected by that. As far as our consciousness doesn't have to go down, our activities don't have to go down, and we don't have to again take birth after birth after birth, even though the rest of the age is going down. And that's all by chanting our rounds and following the four regular principles. And of course, we do as much other service as we can, because otherwise we don't keep engaged in devotional service, then our mind will get crazy with something else, right? And then we'll lose our taste for chanting. And if we lose our taste for chanting, we lose our taste for that higher taste, which helps us to follow the four regulative principles. So all these things but it's basically Srila Prabhupada. It's the program that he gave. It helps us to keep fixed on the spiritual path and become Krishna conscious. So Srila Prabhupada goes on to write, quotes the verse in the Bhagavad Gita, Mang Vavangsha Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana Manas Shastran Stani Indriyani Prakriti Stani Karshati. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they're struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. Well, we see that. And the six senses, well, we have the five senses: seeing, hearing, smelling, touching, and what's the other one? Huh? So I said that. Seeing, hearing, feeling, or touching, smelling, and there's another one which I'm forgetting. Well, we struggle with those senses because they become attached to different things, but all those sensual attractions that we may get, that we may become attracted to, those they all go through the mind. The mind is therefore the mind is called the sixth sense. So the living entities are the living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. So we're always tiny parts of Krishna. Due to conditioned life, they're struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. And what is conditioned life? What does it mean to be a conditioned soul? Conditioned. Yes, and we are influenced by Maya, but there's another meaning. We're also covered. These are also symptoms of it. Conditioned soul, the actual meaning conditioned soul means that we're very because of our attachment, where every living entity has certain conditions under which they can live. Just like we are conditioned souls on this planet, part of our conditions that we live under, is we cannot actually go to other planets. We cannot, now the demigods, they're also conditioned souls for the most part. They have ability. They're on a higher level. They can actually go to another planet, but on this planet, we can't, in spite of what material science says. We can't actually, on our own, go to other planets. We cannot take other forms. We have a human body. Shishi Gorantai, Shishi Radha Vajravihari, Jagannath, Balaram, Lady Sladru, and Shigade Prahlad Maharaj Ki. The conditioned soul is just is restricted in so many ways. There's so many conditions under which we can live. So that's whereas a completely liberated soul actually can go anywhere and do anything. Like Narada Muni is a good example. He's got a spiritual body. He's totally liberated, pure devotee of Krishna, and he the traveling spaceman, and he can travel everywhere on Earth, to any planet in the material universe, and go to the spiritual world. He's 100% free to travel everywhere and engage in the Lord's service, and he does that. So, so the living entities in this world are very restricted. In fact, Srila Prabhupada says that in the material world, everything is very difficult, and in the spiritual world, everything is very easy. Of course, everyone's liberated there. There's no one's conditioned soul there in the spiritual world. The material world, everyone is very everything in the material world is very difficult to perform. Even the simplest thing. Sometimes I sit down with a computer thinking I'm going to spend 5 minutes fixing something, and it ends up to be 2.5 hours because there's so many things that don't work right. We all have experience in our lives. We think everything will go very nicely, and then something comes up, and then something else comes up, and something else comes up. So it's difficult. So this is part of the material existence. And why do we have to go through all this? We go through all this because it's all part of Krishna's big plan for us in the material world, in the material prison. This is a very glorified prison here, with no walls, no walls that we can see anyway. We're here, but the purpose of the material world. One of the purposes of the material world, anyway, is to frustrate us. They're trying to do so many things, especially things that we do for material enjoyment. Are going to get frustrated. Even if you can enjoy something for a while, it becomes it's limited. It's going to come to an end. In Vedic level, you can practice perform some sacrifice and some austerities and so many things, and you might take your next birth on the moon, or that way you can go. We can't force ourselves, but you can go there by the spirit soul can go there by performance of sacrifice. So say you can go there on this to these a higher planet, and you can enjoy for thousands and thousands of years or maybe millions and billions of years, depending on the planets that you're on. You can enjoy like anything, but it's just a matter of time, and you've got to still leave there and you come back down to a middle planet like Earth. We're in the middle planetary system. There's terms somewhere, the seventh heaven or something. Actually, there are actually seven higher planets, planets, but seven higher planetary systems, which I won't try to repeat the names of them all, but there's 14 levels of planetary systems. We're on number 7, and then there are above us there are 7 higher planetary systems, and where the more and more pious personalities live. Well, living is very comfortable there, but even there, it's not perfect. There's problems. Still, there's anxieties. Still, there's worry about when the demons are going to come and kick everyone out and take over their planet. There's histories of that in different parts of the Srimad Bhagavatam, like that. You can't. Srila gives the example he gives the example that on this planet, if someone is born in a ghetto area or a very bad and very poor area like that, they may be thinking, oh, if I just had one of those, if I was rich, I could have one of those big mansions. People who have 60, 80 million dollar houses and with 100 rooms in it. But anyway, they have them. They exist. Somebody has some mansion, some house that's like 20 stories high. I don't know how they even can survive in such a place like that as a home, but they have them. So this example. Somebody's out there. But somewhere out there, so they're like this person in a poor place is maybe aware of such houses and living facilities for someone who's rich. So they're thinking, oh, I'm suffering so much here. I don't have food to eat. Maybe I don't even have a steady place to live. I'm always looking for a new, better, for trying to move from one place to the other to find a proper place to live, like that. You're thinking like that. And if I was only rich and I had one of those big houses, and then everything would be very nice. No more problems. But, Srila Prabhupada points out that those are in the big houses, they got so many problems. They have money, but then they're always afraid. Who's going to come and steal my money? Is this person actually my friend, or are they my enemy? They say they're my friend, but are they just trying to get my money? They're just trying to take advantage of me? Are they just trying to get a chance to come and kill me because they're envious that I have money? It's a lot of anxiety. So, but he was giving that as an example. So he said, same thing. We're on this planet. We read. You can read in the Srimad Bhagavatam. I think Canto 5 is one place. They talk about all the different planetary systems like that. So there's very high heavenly planets. So you may think, oh, these higher planets, they're so heavenly. let me perform some austerity, and then I'll go there, and then I'll be completely satisfied. But he says, no, it's not like it, not like that. Yeah, you have more sense gratification when you go there, but there's also anxiety. If you're there, then you're realizing all the other problems and anxieties that you have to experience. So the only way to become completely free from all kinds of anxiety, Vaikuntha means no anxiety, is to go back to the spiritual world, or at least be completely 100% engaged in the Lord's service. Even if we're in the material atmosphere, but if we're in 100% Krishna consciousness, then we can become free from these problems. So, and that is what we have the opportunity to do here. Always thinking of Krishna means chanting Hare Krishna mantra, but unless one is an initiated devotee, he cannot do this. So things like everyone's chanting Hare Krishna, but nobody's initiated. So how is it possible? So, and Prabhupada doesn't really go into it here. I only can understand like this. Initiation's on two levels, and both are important. There's the external part, where you're the ceremony, and you're promising you're promising spiritual master, I'm promising I'm going to chant 16 rounds a day. I'm promising I'm going to follow the Four Noble Principles. At fire sacrifice, you get your spiritual name. All this, you get that, and that's important. But someone may have to go through all that and actually not really feel it. Even may not really commit to it. It's one thing to say I will do it, I promise. It's another thing to actually do it. Chant 3 rounds, follow the principles. So the other level, which is actually more important, is the initiation in the heart, you may say. So initiation in the heart means I do it. I accept this way of life. I accept the principle. I accept following the Four Regular Principles. I accept that I should be chanting like this. In my mind and my heart, I've dedicated my life to Krishna consciousness. All that's very, and actually accepting it is more important. So that at least that kind of initiation, that level of the initiation, has to be there. If we're just but unless one is an initiated devotee, he cannot always think of Krishna. Always thinking of Krishna means chanting Hare Krishna mantra, but unless one is an initiated devotee, he cannot do this. And of course, it says always thinking. So we have to have that beginning with. We have to have that internal commitment, and of course, the actual initiation is important too. I'm not saying it's not important, but it's important to. But the external part without the internal part wouldn't work. Just like someone could put on a play, a drama, the guru and disciple play with that, and so two actors who are not devotees, but they sit down, and one is the guru and one is the disciple who's getting initiated, and they can go through the whole thing and they can chant all the mantras. He can make all the promises. The disciple makes the promises. The guru's giving his lecture, and okay, you're initiated. Your name is Krishna Das. Yay! And then, but then there's a play. So at the end of the play, then curtains closed, and everyone takes off their costumes. They're out their costumes, and they go their way, and probably do something that's not Krishna conscious. so that externally it was like an initiation. Internally it was just it was a show. So so the internal and the external are both important, but the external without the internal is no good. And if we are fully convinced and on that level on the internal, then why not do the external? Um, Srila Prabhupada he showed by his own example. And Srila Prabhupada he was 11 years after he met his spiritual master before he actually took initiation. 11 years. But he was, from that first meeting, he was very, very actively trying to engage in following the instructions that his spiritual master had given. He was already in his grihastha life, before he took sannyas, he was already publishing his Back to Godhead magazine, right? He started Back to Godhead, it was a couple pages. And we have those, at least in digital form, those still exist. All those copies that he had from back then. So he was already, functioning fully as an initiated disciple, even after the first meeting. But in due course of time, when the opportunity was there, then he did the formal initiation, and he got first and second at the same time, in his case, like that. But he was following before that. So the initiation is important like that. There's also a statement, it comes up in the disciple course, this kind of disciple course. There's also a statement from the Hari Bhakti Vilas, which is similar to this, to what I just explained, is saying that even if one is not initiated, then they can, exactly how it's written now. Anyway, it actually says you can, if one is not initiated, he could actually fall back down into the lower species of life. And there's some other part of the statement too, I don't recall, I have to look at the book. But again, it comes up every time we teach that course, like, how is it possible? Because all your devotional activities are useless unless you're initiated, something like that. But again, obviously we're doing, so many devotees who are not initiated are engaged in so much devotional service. So how is it useless? So again, I understood it like that if you may not be externally initiated, but internally, if you've accepted and you're following the process as we do, you practice, you follow it until and eventually get that initiation. If you're at least in your heart and in your actions, you've actually accepted this, then that doesn't mean that all your devotional activities are useless. But if someone is just not engaged at all in Krishna conscious activities, and then there's not a whole lot of meaning to the devotional activities, right? It wouldn't be that much meaning to it. If we're not engaged if we're not engaged in devotional service, we have to. So again, internally we have to accept the principles. Just like if someone is engaged in a lot of nonsense activities and chants Hare Krishna. The chanting, of course, is always good, but it's not very effective, relatively speaking, as it would be for one who's following all the principles and one who's committed, one who's, like we were reading yesterday. What was yesterday? Yeah. We were reading this. We were just reading. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Which means maybe I should stop at this point. Just open up for questions. Any questions, comments?
materialization, like you were just speaking there, like the external is important. It's almost like when you love someone in the material world, that moment right there when you fall in love is kind of a key moment. But then you also get married externally, but that doesn't mean at that point you start loving. You kind of did already, but then you have that marriage ceremony, which is a form of commitment and showing, the world and yourself and make that commitment. You fall back on it and I made a commitment.
Yes.
It doesn't mean at that point you kind of started ahead of time. It's similar to when you love Krishna, where you get beyond that spiritual knowledge at that moment, that initiation. Your way starts. But it doesn't mean that you just say, oh, I love someone, I don't get married. You still get married.
Yes. And that's in as far as married, that's the external, because in Kali Yuga, the tendency will be, actually it already is to a large degree, but it'll become very severely worse. It says that one of the symptoms of Kali Yuga is that a person, just by living together, will be considered married. Of course, you live together and then you say, not for you, I'm going with someone else. Then it's another marriage because you're living in the same house with somebody else. But of course, that's not good for spiritual life. And of course, but at the end of Kali Yuga, there is no spiritual life, at least among the people in general. So yes, so these external ceremonies are important. For sanskaras, we say sanskaras. Wedding is one of the very important ones. There's a lot of other ones that follow after that have to do with the children that come after the wedding, like that. And sanskara. What does sanskara mean? Huh? It actually means word means something like it leaves an impression. So a sanskara, a wedding sanskara, or a grain ceremony sanskara, or so many different ones there. They leave an impression, and that impression is supposed to make us think, at least at that point, remember Krishna. The weddings are very much centered around Krishna consciousness. At least ours are. Even the grain ceremony. You do a grain ceremony for the child when it's about 6 months or so. You do that, but the actual ceremony, the way we do it now, the way it's in the book, is that you perform this ceremony, and there's a fire sacrifice as a part of it, and you're offering the father is offering the sweet rice, spooning it into the fire. So the idea is that the fire is the deity. Krishna is appearing in the form of the fire, in the fire sacrifice. You actually ask Krishna to appear in that form, and we're chanting mantras. We're in this case putting the sweet rice in, and of course we're also pouring ghee into it. So we're giving an offering to Krishna, and then by doing so, we're asking the Lord to kindly appear in the form of the fire of digestion. That's one of the Krishna's forms, according in Bhagavad Gita. I am the fire of digestion. He says. So we're asking him to appear as the fire of digestion in the body of the child, so the child can digest nicely and can therefore be healthy, and therefore can become Krishna conscious. Because if you're struggling with just surviving, it's really hard to put much energy into to becoming Krishna conscious. So that's that samskara. This whole thing, the whole point of it is to make us think about Krishna and ask Krishna to help out in some way. There's a one for this child who goes off to school. There's one there. There's one for the hair cutting ceremony. And there's a lot of them, but they're all based on, there's one at some point you put earrings on, pierce the ears. I was asked to do one of those once for somebody. Child screamed like anything.
Were you supposed to pierce that?
Yeah. Child screamed like anything. Anyway, the point of the sanskaras is to make us think about Krishna, and they're actually sacrifices, and we're asking Krishna to help in that way. So that's the whole point of these. So the Vedic way of doing things, as far as we are still able to do them, is all meant to help make us think about Krishna and bring us all to become more Krishna conscious.
We've done two of them. We've done two subscribes for
Oh.
You can see just even in the ceremony itself, just afterwards, the imprint.
Yeah, the imprint, yeah.
Yes. I know there's kind of, most of what's enough. But yeah, I think a huge part of Krishna consciousness life is to have these experiences, commitment to Krishna conscious life in all ways. I also thought it was really interesting that Sri Prabhupada was doing so many things even before he went into initiation. So he took initiation how externally took initiation at the same time.
Yes, he actually followed. So the real initiation is actually following the instructions of the spiritual master, dedicating your life like that, and the external one is there also. It's there also. And for most of us, we say, well, why? Okay, well, I'll just decide. I'm going to chant my rounds. I'm going to follow the principles, like the Ritvik idea. Okay, I'm going to chant my rounds. I'm going to follow the principles. I've decided I'm going to take initiation for Srila Prabhupada. And I've decided that Srila Prabhupada wants to give me this name. I mean, that's how is this going to come? But but of course that's not the system, because someone thinks like that, the Ritvik idea. But if you think like that, then the spiritual master, for one thing, you can't tell. The spiritual master has a choice whether to accept you or not accept you as disciple. The spiritual master is supposed to watch the disciple for, Srila Prabhupada says, a year, and by both ways. The disciples are supposed to watch the spiritual master, and both have to feel good that the disciple or the spiritual master is qualified, is fit to do that service, and of course that you can have a proper relationship with them in that, because different gurus also have somewhat different moods. That you're all individuals, and someone might feel comfortable with this one, and someone might feel comfortable with that one. So you practice. So you have to take that time and feel that you're sure yourself, but the spiritual master, in the end, he still is not required to accept a disciple if he chooses not to. It works both ways. The disciple doesn't have to accept. In the end, this is who I've decided is going to be my guru. You always have a choice until you make the decision, and the guru doesn't have to accept the disciple. And Srila Prabhupada himself, although he seemed to give, he said himself, he gave initiations fairly easily. He's got a lot of recommendations for temple presidents like that. And he was initiating lots of disciples. He had about 5,000, I think, initiated disciples by the end. But he didn't, in every single case, he didn't necessarily accept someone. Or he may tell someone, you have to wait longer. You're not ready yet. So it's not that you just, so what to speak of this rhythmic idea that someone can say that, okay, I say I'm ready, and now I'm going to, accept initiation from Srila Prabhupada, or maybe from Bhaktivinoda Thakur, or why not from Krishna himself, or Balaram, or Nityananda. The same principle, if it worked there, it would work anywhere. So I'll accept initiation of such and such person, and I know that I'm sure they'll accept it. But no, the guru at the time of initiation has to be there to say, I am accepting you. As a disciple has to be there saying, I am accepting guru. Now in ISKCON we have, I don't know if everyone's doing it, but I think it's becoming more common. At least I know Jayapataka Maharaj does this. He's got a whole big form. But I think it's not just his form. I think I've seen it used by others. And with a lot of information disciples giving to the guru, and a lot of things that the disciple has to say. I've read this many books, and I've read this, and I've read that, and I understand this, and I understand that. All these things are formalities to make sure, help both guru and disciple to be sure that they want to make that decision. Because once the decision is made, once the initiation is done, you usually don't. You're not supposed to ever break it. And of course, if the guru completely falls down, then that's another thing. And if the disciple completely walks out on everything, then that's that it happens. But otherwise, the commitment is eternal. And not only eternal. I mean, it is eternal. It means through this lifetime, and if spiritual master say goes back to the spiritual world, and then we eventually go back there. There's a relationship still there, and somehow I don't know in detail how that works, but the relationship is there. So I know when I eventually, hopefully, make it back to the spiritual world, Srila Prabhupada will be there in some form, not necessarily the form we saw him here, and I'll somehow or other he'll still be giving direction on how to do things in Krishna service. So that relationship is actually an eternal relationship. Okay. I think we have to end here. It's getting kind of late. So tomorrow's Sunday. So tomorrow will be Chaitanya Charitamrita. We'll continue where we left off. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Not being attacked. Huh. Well, I see someone actually left me a message, a question. How to not become entangled. We don't how to ideally become detached. We become detached from material things by engaging in spiritual activities. Experience a higher taste, and then you will not engage in lower activities. We engage in nice Krishna conscious spiritual activities, and then we can by engaging in spiritual activities, then we become detached from anything material. Okay, so we'll end here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.